Hello, welcome to week 3 of the Summer Confidence Challenge. So hopefully so far you have been providing your child with opportunities to be more competent, right, to do things independently. And the theme for this week is to continue along those lines, but what we're going to start doing now is talking more specifically about anxiety and anxiety related behaviours. And the theme for this week is again about assuming competence and assuming ability and projecting that towards our children. And again, the purpose is not about force or pushing our children to do things that they don't feel comfortable to. But often when I work with parents, what we find is in this space of what we're concentrating on now, a lot of children step into the space that we leave when we assume that they're able to do things. If you have a child who lacks confidence or perhaps has a tendency to feel anxious or worried about things, what's often the case is that we do things often while out and about, but also at home, because we think that they're a bit nervous or anxious to do them. So just as some examples, often what I notice is it's things around independence. That can be going places in the house by themselves, going to the toilet by themselves at home, going into a cubicle while out in public toilets by themselves, and often around things like paying for things in shops or at the ice cream van, or ordering things in cafes, that kind of thing. Now, I just want to be really clear. Some of those, for some children, are too far out of their comfort zone now. So I'm not telling you to push your child really far and tell them that they have to do these things now. That's not the point. This is more about stepping back first, taking stock and noticing what are the things that you're doing by default, like we talked about already, but because we think our child is a bit nervous or a bit anxious to do them themselves, and we don't want to push them. So first we're going to take stock and notice those, and then we're going to provide the space and see if they grow into that space that we have left for them. So you might want to write a list of all the things that you're doing so that your child doesn't feel nervous, but be really careful about which ones we're going to try and naturally phase out. So as an example, if you currently are sitting in the room while your child goes to sleep, this is probably going to be something that requires a bit more careful planning. And I don't want you to just suddenly stop doing everything for your child, because that will likely cause them to feel anxiety. So we're going to start with almost like the low hanging fruit, the easy opportunities where you think, actually, I'm not sure they're even nervous about this. I've just been doing this by default for them because I sort of thought 5 years ago that this might be tricky, or actually you've never given them the opportunity to do this to see if they're anxious or not. So the first step is to just take stock and notice those things. And then what you're going to try and do is see if just not doing what you normally do by default in that space, they just naturally do it by themselves. So for example, let's take quite a common one is children who don't go into the cubicle by themselves out in public. So this is assuming that they're old enough to manage going into a cubicle by themselves. So maybe they've been drawing you in and you've just done it by default for a while now. So the first step might be to just step back and see if quite easily and naturally they just go in by themselves. Now they might not, right? So they might say to you, I want you to come with me, and that's okay. And for now, you take a note of that and go, okay. And you're not going to say, no, I'm not coming with you. You have to go in by yourself. And you would just say something really casual like, okay, and just go in, all right? But you might put that in your bank of, I'm going to try this again later. So this is a behavior where if I just step back, they're still trying to draw me in. But another time that you're doing that, if you know that they're a little bit nervous and they're still trying to draw you in, what you can do, and you'll notice a pattern is coming here, what you're going to try and do is use language to try and project the assumption that they're able to do it without making them or forcing them. Okay, so again, success this week doesn't mean that they'll do everything. The success is that you are projecting this assumption that they are able to. So the way that we do that is using questions again. And in this week, when we're talking about anxiety or nervousness, what we are doing with questions is we are adding in autonomy. So when a child feels anxious, their world sort of seems out of control. And when you add in autonomy, feeling in control, what it does is reduces the anxiety. When we reduce the anxiety, they are going to be more likely to be able to do something. Okay, so questions might look like, for example, if you've tried not just going into the cubicle with them and they haven't done it, another time you might say, which cubicle do you want to go in? Or shall I wait outside the door or by the sink? Or where shall I wait for you? And you're not demanding that this is what happens, but you're suggesting this. And what usually or often happens is that they just quite naturally just answer that question because they feel in control. It feels more tolerable to them. So another example is speaking and doing things, like interacting with people. We often do those things by default for our children. Now, I want to stop there and say, if your child has selective mutism and has never spoken to somebody out in public, then this speaking is going to be too far too soon, and you can try it, but they're not likely to do it, and that's okay. So it requires a lot of desensitization first. But if they have done some speaking out in public, and you know that they are able to do this when they feel comfortable, then interacting with people is another one where we can try to step back. So examples are, let's say you're going to the ice cream van or going into a shop to buy some ice creams, and you could say to your child, do you want to pay with my card or with cash? But what they're hearing is that they're in charge, but also, I assume that you're able to do this. If you want your child to have a go at ordering, if you tell them to order, they are not likely to do it because that adds this pressure that makes it harder for them to be able to do it. So instead, dial up the autonomy, and you can say things like, do you want to order first or shall I? And what they hear is, I'm assuming you're going to order. And if they don't, that's okay. And you can just keep trying that every now and again, and you're not saying to them, I am not ordering for you anymore, or you have to order. So this, which order do you want to do it? Do you want to do it like this, or where shall I wait, here or here? Those autonomy adding in questions are a great way to reduce any anxiety that they might feel more in control, and be able to have a go. So in your PDF, you've got examples of types of tasks that you might have a go with, and the types of language that you might find helpful, types of questions, and space to write your own.